Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as the day this episode is published, so if you are not caught up, I'm not liable. So, this is kind of a bonus episode, a bonus, if you will. Instead of the normal episode, we're just going to jump right into voice submissions.
Howdy, hello. Vol Control is also here.
Yeah, by the way, I guess you matter or whatever. We are recording on 1/29, the day before the finale.
I was hoping that you would bring that up because this is the moment. This is the last moment
This is it.
before the finale. We're like T minus 24 hours almost.
Yeah, almost 24 hours from now. I think it's 25 hours and 20 minutes. We will be
Not that you're counting.
listening to the finale of Malevolent.
I'm honestly just in shock. I was like, should we collect our thoughts and preserve them in this time capsule? And I was like, no thoughts, head empty, finale.
I think this is a very authentic capture of kind of what everyone's feeling, which is, I want to prepare. I know this is really big. It's historical, momentous, and amazing, and we're so excited. But I'm also so everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, my brain feels like it's been shot into a million pieces, and all of those pieces are, like, vibrating at a level that you could never understand.
Well, and we were talking about how we've been knocked out of our routine from 2 weeks without new Malevolent, without votes to talk about, or without new votes to talk about, and I think that that's what we're feeling is like I need my routine back.
I need my routine back. And for patrons, it will continue because literally we're so close to Series 2 starting, but we're also dealing with Series 1 ending, and it's such a strange concept to think that something so big and such a big part of our lives for so long is ending and then a brand new thing is beginning. It's so fast. There is so much going on and also nothing going on. I think everywhere I look, it's just a vibrating mass of, oh my God, it's almost happening.
Yes.
The way that AK Trash Panda describes it is how I've been living the last week, which is we're officially in the measuring time by lasts hours.
Yes.
I just made my last store run before Malevolent Series 1's end. About to wash my sheets for the last time before Malevolent Series 1 ends.
That's so funny. I love that.
This is our last autopsy, not knowing what happens at the end of Malevolent. This is the last time we'll be ignorant.
And what's crazy is we're fucking recording another episode of Autopsy on Saturday.
So, I posed questions to people for this autopsy. Not like you have to answer these, but I gave thought starters, and it was a short little list, and I'm going to read out that list so that you have some context for what people are answering if they choose not to answer in complete sentences or anything like that. So I asked, how has voting changed your relationship to the story? How do you decide what to vote each week? Why do you think the vote matters? What's been your favorite vote and why? Has voting in Malevolent taught you anything about yourself, your art, your community, or life? And how would you describe voting culture to a newbie? So, do you want to read our first email submission?
I would love to. Our first email submission this week is from Inky Horror. They write, "Hello, my name is Inky Horror on Discord. I also go by Trip. I'm really just here to talk about the vote system. I love that the audience gets to be such an important part of the story. The choices we make are the driving force behind everything that happens, both within the narrative and outside of it. Giving the listeners the power to choose what happens next makes the story beats hit even harder. We choose what to do or what not to do, so whatever happens next feels like our fault. Every win and every loss feels a lot bigger because we had a say in how the situation played out. I also love how the choices impact the community. For days after every chapter drop, the Discord is flooded with discussions on how we should vote. Some people vote for the option that they feel will advance the narrative. Some people vote based on how they think Arthur would react to a situation. And some people, like myself, will vote purely on emotion. Everyone's opinions are valued and discussion is highly encouraged. And people get so passionate about their choices. They'll be there for days pleading their case and bringing up long forgotten bits of lore or callbacks to previous episodes that support their position. And sometimes it works. Even in the short time I've been part of the Patreon, I've seen how even a single person can flip the majority vote. It's genuinely incredible how much love and passion I've seen within this community, and I think the vote system is a big part of that. I understand that Harlan has the final say in how everything plays out. These are his characters and his story, and it's clear that he has plans for how he wants things to end, and no amount of falling into holes or dying is going to stop him. But I don't think it diminished the value of making a choice. Even if the choice was an illusion the whole time, we still had that agency. We still got to choose, and it still sparked the discussion into what we want as listeners and what we believe Arthur and John would want as individuals. I'm really looking forward to whatever happens in Series 2, and I hope that we continue to be a part shaping the course of events. Much love. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for your submission, Inky. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I fully agree. The choices impact, I think, the community even more than the story sometimes, and it's so engaging and encouraging. I love it.
Yeah, I wanted to share this email at the top because I think it's a very good thesis statement about the experience and impact that voting has on this fandom and on the people who are a part of it.
Yeah. Let's listen to our first voice submission.
They, she, they. In retrospect, I think the voting aspect of the story made Malevolent special to me because being even a small part of shaping the narrative heightens my investment so much. Should Arthur go in through the door or the window? Should he let his new friend from the rafters distract the mine monster or not? I was wrong about that one, I'll take the L. Should he loose the caboose? Should he go willingly or unwillingly? Go left or right? Eat bread or cheese? I have a say in what happens to John and Arthur and what kind of story we'll get next week, and it's beautiful and terrifying. Voting puts me in the character's shoes, makes it harder to judge them for their choices because I know firsthand how hard these kinds of choices are. It can also be an opportunity to say what we want to say to the characters, affirm and support them, to tell John, you are entirely your own, and Arthur, you don't deserve to die. And voting leads to some of the most memorable community moments, from the triple flip video to the code-breaking frenzy to our current drive to reach 100% against the most impossible of odds. I don't always participate in poll chat because it's big and zoomy and sometimes life gets in the way, but it is very much a part of what makes this show special. In the past, I have described the polls as all of us huddling together as our little car hurtles off a cliff, trying to decide which side of the cliff would be a better experience. Voting patrons past, present, and future, it has been an honor to ride in this car with you.
Faye, thank you so much for your submission. Faye is feels like a long time, maybe forever person in the fandom, in the Discord, in polls. Thank you. I love your presence in chat, and you're just like a big warm blanket as a person. And that's really exemplified in the way that you talk about votes and in your submission. If I could hug my mic right now without it being an auditory nightmare, I would.
Yeah, Faye, I really like the way that you talk about how there's a certain aspect to the votes that allows us to speak to the characters, and I do like that idea. And it sort of aligns with how some votes are about choosing what's best for Arthur and John, not necessarily what we would do in that situation.
Hi, this is Misraa, pronoun she, they, and my favorite vote is the infamous sleep versus sleep. All the votes for that part, the unclean, were unique and fun in that Harlan gave them to us as an ARG we had to solve. Boothjohn was distorted as he tried to explain the vote, and the poll options were a seemingly random string of letters. Using a fairly common cipher, we turned those letters into 3 numbers for each poll option, and had no idea what they meant. We tried correlating them to past votes and chapters, media reference in Malevolent, like books and poetry, as well as the book, The King in Yellow itself, complex number analysis I can't even begin to explain, and eating paper. Even though we didn't solve them, everyone working together and seeing all the smart, unique, and desperate ways people tried to go about solving these votes were really fun. And then after the third vote, Harlan gave us a clue, a picture of a particular edition of The King in Yellow on his Instagram page, which he had actually gifted to a patron in the past. Using that certain book, we did figure out the numbers correlated gave us a page number, line, and word order for a word that did give context for each prior vote. So we were like, all right, we got this. We know what we need to do for this fourth and final vote instead of just voting blind. We get the chapter and the poll, solve the puzzle, and we get sleep versus sleep. Incredible. And then we tried to use context around each word in the book to see if one was maybe better than the other. And then even did a whole flip campaign halfway through the week from sleep to sleep when we decided on a different meaning of that context. It was so funny and one of my favorite experiences as a voter.
Thank you, Misraa, for walking us down memory lane and for your submission in doing so.
And I see a few people in the autopsy chat during our live recording who are asking about the eating paper. Yes, in the same way that sometimes we turn to the tarot cards to help divine what direction the vote should go in, there was some paper eating in hopes of prophetic visions by one of the patrons.
Yes, and if you go back, you can find the autopsy where we talk about it. So I encourage you to go listen to the code-breaking autopsies.
Hello, it's Seer, she, her. So what has voting in Malevolent taught me? Now, I don't know if you know this, but decisions are kind of mandatory in life. I know, shocker. But it is impossible to go even a day without making a choice of some kind, whether it is path-altering or trivial. And I'm going to be embarrassingly honest when I say I am not the best at making decisions. I, like many others, oftentimes find choices to be tied to a lot of inherent pressure and that pesky and ever-looming threat of failure. This fear often contributes to those feelings of anxiety and perfectionism that so many of us struggle with. However, I believe Malevolent and its theme of choice, not to mention its voting mechanics, has improved my ability to make tough choices. Harlan once said that ties were so egregious in Malevolent's narrative because in life you cannot refuse to make a decision. Sometimes you do end up in a dire situation and have to think on your feet. Sitting in a corner and doing nothing essentially means you are casting aside your agency and are instead an object being acted upon. And where's the growth in that? If we require something or desire something, we must make a choice. As Arthur himself said, we will never be 100% certain about anything. And sometimes having the courage to simply make a decision, even when we are uncertain, can lead us to some pretty miraculous places. To quote one of my favorite books of all time, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, quote, "Making a decision was only the beginning of things. When someone makes a decision, he is really diving into a strong current that will carry him to places he had never dreamed of when he first made it." Close quote. And that's what Malevolent taught me, to take that leap of faith, to dive into that current of the unknown, if only to prove to myself that I will emerge on the other side unconquerable.
Thank you, Seer. Man, these submissions are gonna make me cry, which I did not actually anticipate at all.
I meant to tell you at the top that you better get a box of tissues ready. I totally forgot.
I was not expecting people to make me cry with the answers to those questions, but now that I read them back, I don't know why I didn't expect that.
How did you not see this coming?
Surprised Pikachu face.
Yeah, everybody better get their tissues ready for this next voice submission. It's a long one, but it's from AK Trash Panda, who very, very politely sent it in 2 chunks, but I just wanted to let them go off on what they wanted to talk about.
Hi Autopsy, AK Trash Panda here, she, her pronouns, and I want to talk about the stars. A bunch of us were chatting the other day about solitude, as one does, and how absolutely insane it makes us all, and the fact that it's specifically mentioned in the story that Maul starting the fire for Matt means that he can no longer see the stars. And I didn't realize until that moment how many times that's been brought up in the show. Firelight making it difficult to see the stars is a thing that's repeated multiple times. Like in part 45, before Malum shows up, John remarks that the firelight hides the small amount of light in the sky. And in part 51, they couldn't see the stars until after Lilith destroyed the fire. And it's been pretty well communicated that light, whether it's firelight or starlight, represents hope in the show. Firelight specifically, I think, is the hope and the warmth found in people, in community, in personal connection. We're told that Fro is with Arthur in every fire, that children are hope. The lighter is how Noel recognized Arthur. Even Marie finds hope and comfort in the sunlight that her son was so fond of, and then Frederick himself finds renewed hope from the lighter in the dark world when Arthur and John show up in his life. We're told that fire is a fleeting comfort, a brief but powerful blaze. It's a gift of warmth and connection. It's beautiful, but it doesn't last. Starlight is something else entirely. Starlight is also a fire, one that's more distant, much colder and more detached, but it's also more eternal. It's enduring. It's almost fire's opposite. Where fire you can feel intensely but doesn't last, the stars are a constant even if you can't always experience them. And in a very can't see the forest for the trees type of way, being so focused on the intensity of what's right in front of you can blind you to the reality of what's always there. It's the brief versus the beyond. And if fire is the fleeting gift of personal connection, I think we are the stars. I think we are the representation of a hope that feels distant, that you can't always see or feel, but that is always with you, constant but unknowable. We followed Arthur and John to hell and back. We've been a guiding light and an unknown source of hope and help to them for 6 years. 299 chapters. We've debated and celebrated and mourned and decided, in every step of the way we've held hope in our heart for these characters. After the last chapter dropped, Queen and her big beautiful brain shared this mental image of the voters represented as these sort of ghostly little humanoid spirits standing around Arthur and Kane, ready to catch Arthur when he lets go and falls, and like the group around them growing with each new vote that gets cast. And man, I can't get this image out of my head. It's so fucking beautiful. Just a whole community coming together to project as much love and hope at them as possible. And like, yeah, I think that's us. I think they can see us. I think we're surrounding them. Our love and light reaching them from a couple thousand light years away through a patron poll and a Discord server. We're holding secret knowledge and knowing nothing for certain. Making choices and holding hands around our guys, looking on with love and adoration, just slow blinking at one another in Congress to determine the fate of our favorite ones. So yeah, that's what it feels like to be a voter. It feels like the stars.
I'm going to create a new rule where if you write fan fiction, you can't submit to my podcast. Thank you so much for your submission, AK. I think. Thank you. You should respond before I respond because I need a minute.
Thank you, AK, for your wonderful submission, for your beautiful words. I was so struck by the symbolism that you found between firelight and starlight, and I thought that was so cool. And man, the brief versus the beyond. Whoa. You put it so beautifully, both touching and just so poetic. I love the idea that we, the patrons, are the guiding starlight. And I see that everyone in the chat is also crying, so
I was immediately like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. You use the stars to navigate, and like that's huge. That's a whole thing, man. That's such a beautiful way to think of it. And you know, there's always this hyperlogical part in my brain that says, oh, that's not intentional. I shouldn't derive that meaning because it's probably wasn't intended. But man, who cares what's intended? And also, I don't know, it could have been. And I think Malevolent, especially in the choices and the voting, has given me so much more perspective on there is no difference between the patron who doesn't vote and me. It's just that my voice got put into the story because I chose to take the action, and everyone has that same agency. They just need to choose to do that. So thank you. I loved that. It was beautiful. And I'm glad you liked my corny, silly little idea because it's living with me very strongly.
Hey, Autumn here, and since this is the last autopsy for Malevolent, stay strong. I wanted to talk about the votes. The opportunity to vote was what initially drew me towards Patreon in the first place. Usually I'm fairly conservative when it comes to these sorts of things, but the prospect of being able to interact and be a small part of the history of my favourite podcast wasn't something I could pass up. I think that from the start, I've always taken voting seriously. Sure, sometimes I may vote for the shits and giggles, but when I vote, I try to go for what feels right for me, and I feel like this has allowed me to gain a better idea of who I am as a person. I've learnt that I value being able to stand up for yourself in the face of something that by all means could destroy you effortlessly. I've learned that you can't save everyone unless they're willing to be saved, but how important it is not to give up on someone trying. How to live with grief, how to forgive, and most importantly, to never give up, and that no matter how vast the darkness, you must supply your own light. While before these were concepts I knew, Malevolent embodies them, and I was able to solidify them through the debates in the poll mines. If I hadn't joined the Patreon, I'm sure Malevolent wouldn't make up as much of my life as it does, but because I have, I've met some amazing friends, been given opportunities I could only have dreamed of, and in a world filled with short-form content, it's nice to be given an opportunity to think. Because of Malevolent's release schedule and the following autopsy episodes, each week I've been able to sit down and analyse a piece of media in a way that I've scarcely done before. So thank you, Malevolent. Thank you to the patrons and the votes for allowing me into a community that I'm proud to be a part of. That's all from me. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Autumn, for your submission. And I love that you brought up short form content being such a contrast to Malevolent because, yeah, it's the opposite of it in every way. Even though some could argue that, yeah, we do kind of get shorter versions of the whole story week to week. I definitely would not call it short form.
I would not call it short form content.
Short form content doesn't typically tend to inspire the intensity and consistency of Malevolent discussion, and I love that. And I'm really proud that Autopsy can contribute like an hour per part. 5 hours of Autopsy content for every 1 hour of Malevolent content is pretty insane, but that's like really good ratio of a fragment of time that we all spend talking about it, thinking about it, enjoying it. So it's pretty good.
Hello, Autopsy Lovelies. This is CraftyPlans, she/her. I'm a relative latecomer to the Patreon, and I think my first vote was the Battle of Egg versus Lantern. And my entry into the Patreon side of Discord was greeted with a plethora of well-meaning but very confusing egg emojis. I mostly lurk in the Discord, so more likely than not I haven't interacted with you. Though I may not be a particularly vocal participant, I still enjoy the opportunity to vote. It's a nice time to take for myself each week and have a quiet think about where Arthur is and what brought him to this point and what his character would do honestly in that moment. I actually make a concerted effort to stay clear of poll chat, and I find that rather than bringing me closer to the community, it separates me from my own experience of the story. My podcast time is kind of sacred. It's a quiet island in my week set aside just for me. My days are busy and loud and rarely still, but Monday evenings, when I'm making dinner, I get to retreat into my headphone bubble and just exist within the story. For me, the vote decision is an extension of that quiet place and provides an opportunity for reflection. I'm happy for those who get to engage in the poll chat and get fired up by the choices, and it's nice to observe from a distance, but I like my quiet contemplation. Once my choice is made, it's unlikely to be changed. I think the vote really matters because it gives people a way to interact with the story on their own terms, whether you love getting in poll chat and fighting for the choice that you believe is right, or whether you just enjoy being quiet on the sidelines. There's no wrong answers here, and everyone gets to choose.
Thank you, CraftyPlans. I really appreciated the perspective of somebody who may not participate in the poll very much or doesn't really engage with the voting aspect as thoroughly as a lot of us here on Autopsy do, because I never want to underestimate how much people might care about the vote or have feelings about the voting process, even though they may not be extremely vocal or participatory. I'm very honest about poll chat. It's a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of people talking at you. I mean, God forbid you're one person against an army of people who all are voting differently from you. You will get a response to every question 5 times, and you will get pinged all 5 times. So it can be a lot.
It can be very overwhelming, yeah.
And I want to hear from people who have that more distant experience too. And I'm so glad that it still changes the experience and means something, even if you're not as vocal about it as, say, somebody who made a podcast about it.
And I'm so glad that you shared that experience and talk about, in the same way that Autumn was talking about how the way that Malevolent comes out, it forces you to spend some time in quiet contemplation. And I think that is something that we love about Malevolent, but maybe don't consciously think about all of the time. And so especially like going through this period where we actually don't have a new Malevolent episode this week, it feels a little bit different. It feels like something's shifted in the routine. There's not that new episode to spend that quiet time with.
It's funny. My first impulse is to say, I don't do anything quietly. Who's in quiet contemplation? It's not me. But I understand the intention, and I also want to say that this week has really illuminated the fact that I genuinely can't remember what I did before Malevolent. Like, what did I do week to week?
Right.
I know I was in other fandoms. We met in a different fandom.
Yeah.
Like, there must have been something I did, but like this week I'm sitting here like, okay, what am I missing? My week doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I've realized, like, it's been 2 years of every
Mhm.
week having Malevolent to listen to. And for other people, so much longer. But, like, that's that's a very heavily trodden pattern in my brain now.
Yeah, and there wasn't any week where we couldn't listen to it, or rather, there wasn't any week where we didn't make time to prioritize listening to it when it dropped. So it's like double reinforced, where the thing is always happening on a regular basis, and also we are always prioritizing making time for it.
Yeah, and it's been such a lovely tradition, like I've mentioned before. Paul and I always listen together. I mean, rare exception that has happened where we don't listen together, but and some of them famous for how they broke me. But I have deeply realized like how much I really will drop to come listen to Malevolent. I will tell my boss I'm going to be 10 minutes late to a meeting because I'm not going to tell her why,
Yeah.
but because I don't want to make Vol wait to listen to the chapter and then I have to go and pretend to be normal at a meeting after listening to Malevolent. So it's been such a ride.
Yeah.
Pi, she, her. 251 was my first vote. Did you fulfill Surveil's dying wish? I did not. It is not easy to trust, to let yourself fall. I know there was a time that when asked to let go, I would have responded in earnest, I can't. But I don't want to think that way. I redeemed myself with 291, and the consequences thereof. Trust versus doubt. I don't think I've ever felt so rewarded for a campaign. I sent 12% of all my messages in poll chat that week. I wanted Arthur to put his faith in her, to believe in humanity and for him to consider her representative of it. I don't want to doubt every word, every offer, every choice. And the limb I went out on then was much thinner than trusting Arthur Lester. But I'm not the only voice in Arthur's head. When do we start believing again?
Thank you, Pi, for your submission. And I love how you ended that one. You always have banger endings. I am so frequently reminded that my position and the way that I see things is not actually as common as I think it is. And especially when it comes to like believing the best of people and assuming the best off the bat. I mean, it can be as simple as, I'll be out with a family member and they'll say, oh my God, I can't believe someone abandoned their grocery cart here without putting it back. And my brain is immediately conjuring up all of the reasons, the very good, valid reasons that they might have left it there without putting it back. Like, they got an emergency phone call from the school and they had to run and pick their kid up. They're not thinking about returning the grocery cart. Like, I am immediately thinking that instead of they were lazy and just didn't want to put it back. And that is something that I've always been different for, in my family at least, a lot of immediate negative associations. And I'm not saying that's not right, and I'm not saying that you don't have reason to feel that way. And frankly, it would be healthier if I did a little bit more skeptical thinking, because I do fall for a lot of things that way.
Sure.
But when do we start believing again is such a powerful thing, because I never lose it, but I do recognize that a lot of people forget how to do it and need to be reminded, and they need to be shown how easy it can be to just like think a little bit longer than you normally would about why something happened, how somebody's feeling. You know, when somebody is rude to you at any point in life, usually at like a fast food joint where they're not getting paid very much, they're probably going through a lot, you don't know. And that's the kind of person I am, so I very rarely complain about that kind of everyday incident. But hearing when do we start to believe again, to hope again, I love that sentiment, and I hope that people who are listening to Malevolent can find it in them to start pulling themselves up and trying to think that way.
Yeah. I think this is one of the reasons that you and I are such good friends, Queen, is that we are similar in having this optimism that people are either have the best intentions, or, you know, they're going through something that changes their ability to have the patience or the best intentions in mind. And I think that in the world that we live in, it can be really difficult to always have that initial optimism. At least it's easy to be skeptical and jaded, but I do think it's important to look to each other, to look to our neighbors, and believe that people do have the best intentions at heart.
And I want to say that if you find yourself really struggling with this, if you find it really hard to not immediately jump to a negative when something upsets you or annoys you, or you start to think negatively of the people around you, I think it's also important to remember that the harder you judge and assume and leap to conclusions for other people, the harder it's going to be when you come to realize you did abandon your grocery cart once. You maybe weren't as nice to somebody because they didn't know the context of what was going on in your life. And I think when I reflect on myself and the things that I may have done that appear unreasonable or rude to other people, I am hoping that they give me the grace that I'm trying to give others. And so to think of yourself as like, you are going to make mistakes. You are going to upset strangers on the street sometimes with what you do, because we're not able to constantly 24/7 be the most polite and respectful version of ourselves on any given day. And you'll be kinder to yourself if you can also be kinder to other people. And obviously this is just going for like very limited stranger interactions. I'm not talking about forgiving Jeff Bezos, but you know what I mean. We don't know what he's going through.
Oakley, they, them. It's hard to write about the beginning of the end. I struggle in what I want to say. In many ways, this is a goodbye to a show that's changed my life and the lives of many others. The vote was always important to me, but I often didn't care what won or lost beyond extremely pivotal moments. For me, it was about community. I came to this fandom as a young teenager with no particular aspirations beyond surviving high school. Now I'm an adult. I'm in college. I've written thousands of words of my first novel. I've been overseas. I've traveled by myself. I've met the love of my life, and I've met creative, intelligent, hilarious friends I won't ever forget. I've had the privilege of growing up alongside this story and its fandom. My first vote was chapter 161, very early into season 4, although I consider my first real moment in the Patreon to be the week that Detective Knoll first appeared. It felt like half of Invictus was enjoined in a mania, theorizing in if or not he was secretly Parker, completely unaware we were about to meet one of the most beloved characters in the show. After that fully solidified my investment, I found myself following a story that became meaningful in an extremely personal way. I and many others were told through the narrative, you are seen, you are cared for, and you deserve love. Arthur and John's care for one another, John's arc of self-discovery, Arthur's forgiveness of himself, these are messages of love and friendship that have always been echoed in the community. Those of you who know me know I get very passionate about the things I love, sometimes to a fault, but I've never once felt othered for it here. I was accepted, supported, and encouraged at every turn for my passions. For me, participating in the vote meant I was impacting a story that meant a lot to me and provided a space of hope and love for hundreds of others, and it's something I'll never take for granted. I wish us all the best for the end of Malevolent. I cannot wait to see what's in store for Series 2, and I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Oakley. I will see you there, and I am so happy you grew up surrounded by people who care and are so passionate and can show you that healthy critical thinking and discussion is a good thing, actually, because I know a lot of young people are not being given that opportunity. So it's very refreshing to hear somebody who is on the younger side of the fandom who is benefiting so much from the fandom in a non-fandom way. I think that's very important. I wish more academia studied that, because fandom is honestly, I think, extremely beneficial in developing minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've heard from several young people who have been teenagers when they started listening to Malevolent and have grown alongside it and are adults now. It seems like Malevolent has had a really positive impact on people who are still growing and figuring out who they are and what kind of values are really truly important for them. And I love that. I think that's great.
And not to put all the emphasis on Oakley being young, it's just something that was mentioned in the message. But I am also deeply changed and have grown from
Right.
Malevolent. I am doing things I never thought I could do. I am a completely different. You can probably hear me change over the course of Autopsy
Yeah.
because I was a totally different person when I started.
Mhm.
So I can't imagine how different I am now. Hi, past queen. I don't know who you were. You had some weird thoughts and opinions, but I am so grateful and so glad to hear from community members like Oakley.
Yeah. Thanks, Oakley. And it looks like our next submission is an email. It's from Nukuome. He says, "Hello everyone at Autopsy. Name's Nukuome. Pronouns are he/it. I do not have the words, nor unfortunately the time to record for this final message for Series 1. It's been about a year and a half since I first started Malevolent and a little over a year since I became a patron. Back when my biggest concern was whether or not we'd be able to see Gerard again. I can't say in few enough words what of this meant to me. How this show has quite literally saved my life numerous times and changed it for the better. It's been by my side as I've transitioned into my own life, into someone I can confidently say is entirely my own. This community would not be what it is without you two, Vol and Queen. It's a cold, drab place out here, especially this past year, but having such a welcoming space has made it oh so much brighter. Kane believes true happiness can only be achieved by being part of a whole, by being given a purpose to serve in a seemingly meaningless world. But I believe it was a certain dandelion who told Arthur, fuck meaning, or rather, find your own. When it seems like everything is against you and not a single person would care whether you live or die, know that despite it all, what is really important is what you make it. Find your own happiness wherever it may be. It's out there waiting for you. You just need to reach out and touch it. I might not be in the audience, though I will try to be. Sorry if this is all just a big ball of corn. It's late and I can't help being born on the cob. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you everyone who has helped this community thrive for the better, no matter how little you feel you contributed. From making art to sending just a single friendly message to creating an entire podcast. Now, hopefully not for the last time, have a great autopsy, y'all. And then in tiny script, in parentheses, it says, also, Mr. Guthrie, if you ever hear this message, I will, and I mean will, pay a septillion dollars for one more line of dialogue from Parker Gang. He's my light in the dark and the anchor of my soul. This isn't serious, by the way. The paying money part, I mean everything else.
Oh, that was so sweet. Thank you, Nukuome. That's extremely kind. And yes, I fully agree. Everybody contributes to such an amazing, loving, kind, caring, creative community, even if all you have done is send some silly messages or welcome to somebody in.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how earnest everyone is. I feel like everyone is so giving in what's in their heart, and that can be really difficult for people to be vulnerable that way. So I really appreciate everyone sharing their most heartfelt thoughts. It's really sweet.
This does not bode well. My nose did the typical I'm gonna cry tingle in that message, and I
Oh,
know that you do them in emotional order,
no,
so
no, I try to balance the emotional ones with ones that are just about, yapping about Malevolent. I try to balance it out so that you don't devolve into a helpless crying.
thanks. Because then you know what? That's your problem because you have to vamp until I can put my shit together.
Yeah.
Hi, Autopsy. Rose of Envy, she, her. Queen gave us some wonderful conversation starters for this episode, but I wanted to start with a thank you to Autopsy. When I finally joined the Patreon and learned about Autopsy, I was so excited to find there was a fan podcast for a podcast because, really, what a great way to analyze and discuss Malevolent. Thank you, Queen and her wonderful co-host, for giving us a voice and for showing such incredible dedication to her craft. Now, on to the question I'll be answering. How do I choose what to vote? To be honest, most of it is instinct and a gut feeling. The classic your first answer is usually the right one has stuck with me since I heard it in school, so most of the time what I choose at first is what I stick with. I will admit that I lurk in the poll minds when I can, and there have been some votes that have swayed me. Well, some opinions and poll minds that have swayed me, I guess. But overall, I go with what I feel is best and what I know I can justify. I've always been a quote-unquote logical voter in the sense that I like to think through all the possible details of the vote to come to the best answer. I can and will justify any vote no matter the simplicity. One of these days I'll find my favorite vote, but it's difficult to pick just one when the entire podcast is my favorite. I'm really excited to see what sort of music we get with this final chapter, but for right now, happy autopsy.
Thank you, Rose. And thank you so much for the kind words at the very beginning. I am also so fascinated by the way everybody chooses to decide their votes. But you have been such a staple. I forget what it was like without you. You are iconic and amazing. And I know that there is, if you don't know, there is a Malevolent in-person meetup planned. And hopefully Rose will be able to attend. But if she does, I don't know that I'm gonna let anyone else talk to me. I think Rose is just gonna have to be a translator because all I want to hear is Rose talking in my
Yeah.
ear. Love your voice. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Rose. What Queen said is so true. Like, I can't imagine not having your musical analysis to help us parse, like, why the music of Malevolent makes us feel the way that we do. And I'm so grateful for all of your wonderful submissions to Autopsy. You know that we love it when you play music for us, and that's been really special.
Yeah, and I mean, to be frank, it's funny. I know that you may not think about it like this, but I've never had anyone play an instrument for me before, like with intention for me specifically to hear it. I've always seen like people playing live or like concerts and stuff where there's a group of people, and I guess this is technically that, but when Rose plays an instrument in a submission to Autopsy, it feels like somebody's playing music for me, and that has in the past made me very emotional because I just think that's beautiful, and I feel like it is such a, like the art of music is such a intangible thing that
Yeah.
is so hard to capture, and it feels so special when somebody shares it with you. And I may not be a person who is an expert in music or even knows very much about music, but you don't need to in order to feel the magic of music.
Truly.
And Rose has really brought that to life, and it feels so special that there are times when Rose will sit down and make music for me to hear specifically, even if it's just to demonstrate like a thing that she wants to talk about. So Rose, your place on Autopsy is very special, and I'm sure that years and years from now you will get letters from people who have been inspired by your segments on Autopsy to become musicians
Yeah.
and be study instruments, because you are the kind of person who inspires people. So thank you so much again. And I think it's fascinating that you're like, I just go on my instinct because man, if I don't triple check my instinct, it's not a vote. Okay, so let me try to read this email. Oh boy, all right.
At least read the intro. Try and nail the little intro, because I think they wrote it out the same way that they usually say it.
Okay. Hi guys, this is Friska Friskito, she, her, hello! I couldn't do a voice submission because my little nieces are over and work has been a lot lately, so have my first email. This is it, guys. In a few days, we will all hold hands and find out together how it goes. I am in fear, but also, shh, it's gonna be okay. It's weird to think, had I never been gifted my first month, I never would have realized that Patreon had finally been unblocked in Egypt. I wouldn't even be sending in the submission. My first vote was telling Surveil the truth or not about Mother Darkness, I think. It was already a 98%, but I sent my vote in anyway because it mattered to me. Besides, I wasn't sure I would always have the ability to vote. At any given moment, Patreon and or payments to it could get blocked again. Ever since, I've treated every vote as my last and one that mattered. Here is what I learned. Go with your gut first. There is no shame in changing your mind when presented with a good argument, but if you're still not sure, always go with your gut. I learned this the hard way with the single, very recent time I did not. It was when we were asked to bite Lilith or Arthur's finger. I'm so glad Lorik, my favorite guy, came back to guide us, but man, I'm so sorry, Arthur. I still think about that vote a lot. I think this is why Malevolent is such a great example of the power of sincerity in storytelling and what it can inspire in us. Mistakes truly do hurt because we care so much about John and Arthur. We even agonize over simple choices like bread and cheese because they've come to mean that much to us. We've made mistakes, but just like our guys, we've come so far. Even if we can't get the 100%, at least we know we tried, right? We're still hoping for it, and hope is an incredible thing to inspire in one person, let alone several hundred listeners. Friska, thank you so much for your submission. I did tear up, if anyone was wondering, when I was reading about what Friska learned, because I never even thought about the fact that, like, payments were blocked in Egypt,
Right.
and at any given moment, you can just have that experience taken away from you. First of all, that's very scary for me personally, so I can understand that fear. But second of all, I think it is beautiful that somebody has a real example of why, like, every vote matters.
Yeah.
And the fact that I really take it for granted that I will have my week-to-week subscription and nobody can tell me not to. The worst thing that would happen is financially I couldn't afford it, but that's a very different choice that is being made for my financial stability rather than my country has refused to let me have this.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do to get around it. So the idea of somebody cherishing the vote that much, even saying it out loud sounds a little silly, but like I think that's lovely, and I think it is a really good example of what I mean when I say, like, you may not care about what we're voting on, but the ability to vote is so precious and so cool and unique and amazing.
Yeah, it makes me think about what we decided our favorite chapter was for Extra Life this past year, which was next week's episode. And it makes me feel the same thing where every vote matters, but, you know, my favorite vote is the vote that I'm debating on this week, you know?
Yeah, it's next week. That's what my favorite part of episode of Malevolent is. Whatever's happening next week. It was very good. It was very smart, Vol. All right, let's listen to another voice message.
Hello, it's Spade. Voting has changed my relationship to the story in a way that made me feel more involved in it. Instead of just listening to the show, I was able to be part of voting what happens next. I think voting matters because it's a way to get people connected to the story more, and a way to get people connected to each other. For people who are in the poll chats, some people are in the poll mines all week. I think votes matter because it's a way to get people connected, both to the story and to each other more. When you're part of a vote, you're part of the other people in the vote. I think that's cool. It's also a way to get people to interact more with each other, specifically in the poll mines, or just talking about the poll together. Like now, on Autopsy. My favorite vote so far that I've been part of, because I've only been voting, I only joined the Patreon in season 6, so I haven't really been voting for a while. I would say the favorite vote I've been part of was the Kill the Butcher poll. It was a fun one. It was entirely chaotic for the entire week. So much art was made for it in the poll mines. It was just fun. And my second one was probably
when we voted for Larson to be second place for Lilith, and we were all joking, and then guess who voice Lilith now uses? Larson's. It's just kind of funny how it turned out. And bye-bye, that's all.
Thank you, Spade. I'm so happy you submitted for this. You are such a staple on this show now. I love hearing your voice, and whenever I see that you submitted, I hear, it's Spade. I can hear your intro and outro so clearly in my head.
Yeah, we have a lot of characters who are regular submitters that have sort of very very familiar opening lines or introductions, and I love that we have like recurring characters on Autopsy. It also is very funny when we get deep enough in the poll mines that we start joking about things like, oh, what if Lilith ends up in Larson? And then when those things actually come to pass, it's so funny to me.
I also love that Spade, I think, is one of the best examples of submitting and then a few days later going, okay, update. Like,
this is
next day Spade, I think it was. Yeah.
Iconic.
Such a good one.
All right. Our next email is from Fractals. It says, hi, Autopsy. It's Fractals, AM, and it's pronouns. Voting is quite possibly my favorite thing about Malevolent. It was not something I was aware of when I first started listening. I remember listening and increasingly thinking that there was something else going on, with the repeated references to free will and the dice rolls, which I didn't notice until embarrassingly late. But it wasn't until I actually researched Malevolent that I found out about voting. I was so excited when I found out, and I sent several deranged voice messages to my friends because I had to talk to somebody about it. I liked Malevolent before finding out about the voting mechanic, but finding out about it is what got me hooked properly. Being able to vote gives me a much closer connection to the story, and it forces me to engage actively. I found that chapters I've got to vote in feel much more important to me, and votes where I was campaigning hard for a particular side even more so. Voting is one of those things that makes Malevolent so unique, and imbues the show with a particular kind of life and connection that is rarely found in other shows. There's something so powerful about being able to look at a piece of media and say, even just a little bit, I'm part of this story. Bye!
Thank you for submitting, Fractals. Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's powerful about being able to look at something and say, like, I'm part of it. And envisioning yourself in it is one of the easiest steps, I think, that you can take to feel that if you don't feel a connection that way already.
Right.
But, like, I find that there's can be such a visceral reaction, and we've talked about it so many times on Autopsy, where we'll make a vote and it was the right or wrong decision, and the audience immediately has a fervent reaction that eventually boils down to something more manageable, more understandable, something that makes a little more sense proportionally. But it's because not only are we nerds who are in fandom and deeply invested, and we spend a lot of time either creating or thinking about this piece of media, which means it's going to be more meaningful to us than a casual listener. But it is also because when you have a hand in something, when you feel like you had agency for a minute, even if it's fake and you know it,
right,
even if, quote unquote, it doesn't matter, your brain just is going to feel more deeply connected. I mean,
you experience a certain kind of like responsibility, and for me there's almost a certain sense of pride for like the seasons that or the episodes that I have been a voter for.
Yeah, and on top of that, okay, I'm sorry everybody, I work in marketing. When you are trying to get people to adopt a product, a slogan, a new set of rules or anything, one of the best tried and true things you will hear around the table is, how can you get people to embrace it? How can you get people to feel like they're part of it? Mm-hmm. And you have to find a way for people to adopt it and see themselves in it. Because it's not really about, it's not always about what can this do for me, but it is about how do I how do I fit into this? I mean,
Right.
can I see myself doing it? Is there a way? That's why there's so many activations where you see people doing these wild stunts, pop-ups, where you can go through a pop-up where they like have a big art installation and you can contribute to it in some way, like putting a
Right.
post-it note up, or oh my gosh, that beautiful exhibit of that man whose partner died of AIDS, and you could take a piece of candy from that big pile, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like representative. That really helps people connect, feeling that moment where you got to participate in something will always resonate with you. Even if you think it didn't, it will
Yeah.
make you feel a little bit more attached. And so with Malevolent, that just feels so dialed up to a level that you don't get with other stories. You don't
Right.
get to feel like your choice mattered, and you're not just yelling at the screen, don't do that. You can
Right.
actually try an effect.
True, true. And I, when I first discovered the voting mechanic of Malevolent, I think I was sort of like, huh, I wonder how that works. Or like I couldn't even really envision like how much influence I could really see voters, voting on on the direction of the story, how that would manifest. And now, 2 years down the line, it it is fascinating to me as both a listener and also as a writer myself. It is so impressive to me that Harlan can balance between having a plan and letting a bunch of strangers, frankly, like make decisions in his story, and it's amazing.
And sometimes I've been like, why are you letting us do this? Why are we voting on this? Why would you do this?
I think you've said that on Autopsy before, where it's like certain votes, you're like, why do we get to decide this? Like, I don't want any part of this.
Sir, I know you know what you're doing, but I don't know what you're doing, and that makes it like extra bad, because this seems like a big fucking deal, and I don't know that I want to do that. By the way, because I think it's an important work of art to look up if you've never seen it, thank you, Ren linked it in the chat. It's Untitled Portrait of Ross in LA. It's currently in a collection of the Art Institute of Chicago. It's beautiful. I recommend going and reading about it. I wouldn't just read the Wikipedia article. There are lots of really deep and meaningful articles that have been posted about it throughout the years. It's lovely. But that is kind of what it reminds me of. When you are involved with something, you will find a deeper connection.
Yeah.
And Malevolent has formed so much passion and creativity because you don't have a choice. If you're active in voting, you are gonna feel something about
Invested,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Even people who are cryptids to me and unknowable, who literally just like check their email sometimes, see a poll, click a choice, and leave. Like, even those people have more of a connection with Malevolent than they think they do, because they had a choice, and they're going to remember when they listen to the next episode, whenever that is, that they voted on that.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey friends, this is Ajaqs, she, her, with a quick submission about this vote. I've been thinking about how we need to get 100%, and I've come to this thought. Let's say you voted let go. You were sure of that vote for yourself. You were 100%. The people voting I can't are likely voting because 1, they don't want to let go. That's totally fair. 2, they're trolling, and for some reason they want to get a bad option. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but it could be. Or 3, they just weren't thinking all that hard and just pressed a button. These are all 100% choices too, just in a different direction. This is why I'm not freaking out. My voice is 100% sure. I'm on Arthur and John's side, and I can't control those that aren't. I mean, none of us can. But we can decide for ourselves. Are you 100%? Are you with John and Arthur? I'm really excited for the finale. I'll see you guys soon. Bye! Oh, kitty purrs. Can I get some kitty purrs?
Oh my God. I almost interrupted the best part of your submission. I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking at the timestamp. Ah!
Another kitty to add to our guest list on Autopsy.
I love it. Oh my god, yay. Ajax, what's your kitty's name?
I
I
know, I
need
was
to
just gonna
know.
say, we need to know.
Mabel. Oh my god.
Mabel! Oh, I hope that's a Gravity Falls reference. I love Gravity Falls.
Me too. Thank you for your submission, Ajax. You are as sweet and bouncy as I imagined. You sound exactly like I thought you would in this submission specifically.
Yeah, I saw Ajax post this, I think it was probably like a week ago now. God, it's so weird when Malevolent Time is not running on Malevolent Time. But I saw that they posted this in poll chat, and I thought it was such a lovely sentiment. So thank you, Ajax, for preserving it here on Autopsy. It was a really sweet sentiment.
Yeah, and I want to say about Ajax, I've been friends with Ajax for a while, and Ajax is one of the most incredible people who is so willing to talk through a disagreement, any kind of like misalignment on views from the poll to like other more serious things. Ajax is so open to seeing other perspectives and is very kind-hearted and compassionate in intention to understand where others are coming from. And we had some great DMs about voting and like who would vote this way and why. And I loved how open we both were to exploring the alternatives and trying to see more innocent and less like malicious or malevolent ways of voting to hold on. Because I think that in our fervor and enthusiasm, there can be a lot of like accusatory, who the fuck is doing this? Why would you do this?
Right.
But there are a lot of good reasons that people might have voted the opposite way. And even at the end here, when it seems so obvious, when it is so obvious, a lot of things can happen. I mean, Ren just said it in the chat, personally knew somebody who misclicked and did not realize it until right now. Yeah. So like anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think Ajax is one of the coolest voices to hear from because, not to flatter myself, like me, Ajax is so open to learning, and Malevolent is nothing if not a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Taliesin, he, him. So, unsurprisingly, 299 is still on my mind. And one thing that hasn't left me alone is thinking about the fact that Nyarlathotep's big thing is that he's a shapeshifter. And over the course of Malevolent, we haven't seen Cain do any shapeshifting, which can be assumed to be another thing of him trying to divorce himself from his identity as Nyarlathotep. But it's so interesting to me that here he is, he's lost, he's angry, he's at his wit's end, and now because of that, he's gone full monster form. We've seen him cave back into his identity as Nyarlathotep, and now he's completely shed the identity of Cain. Anyone can be redeemed and anything can become something new, but Cain can't change his nature. And it just is so enthralling to me after he spent so long tearing down John and making John believe that he could never change his nature. Now we have Cain who is falling into his own emotional trap. And I just think it's a fitting end for him, even if we don't have 300 to make this a complete thought.
Thank you. Thank you, Tal. I love this. And I do think it's totally remarkable what Arthur is capable of doing to Cain.
Right.
One human man, Nyarlathotep, who will win? Like it's crazy. It's crazy. How can you let yourself be so deeply unraveled by a guy?
He's just a little guy. But I love Taliesin's thoughts about Cain's journey with his identity and how he has removed himself from Nyarlathotep, but when it all falls apart, he he sort of falls back onto that. And it's so interesting to consider the fact that we haven't seen Cain shapeshift up until this point. Not even into like silly costumes or like a different guy or pretending to be someone like the Cain Yellow did. It's always been just Cain, and yeah, it's really interesting to see him, the cumulative breaking down and belittling of John's journey of identity compared to his own, and how he might have wanted the kind of support in his individuality that John got. It's so interesting to me.
He's just sad because his dad never loved him, and he's envious that John is getting the love that he wished he had, and it's sad. What a sad baby. I have to say, though, for somebody with so much power and time at their disposal, Cain was truly so easy to bother. Like, it really took nothing. All Lilith had to do was be like, I like this guy. And that was it.
Yeah.
That, for some reason, he just was like, that's all I care about now.
I think that it's telling of his perspective and his actual experience with humanity, and how he feels about other gods and how he feels about humanity. And he's just so,
Yeah, words fail.
Hey friends, this is Ajaqs, she, her, with a quick submission, not about this specific vote, but about how becoming a voter has changed my relationship with the show. I'm a relatively new patron compared to most. My first vote was chapter 256, Pick Up the Nail or Leave It. I chose to pick it up because, as you all know, we are like crows and must pick up anything shiny. When I first started voting, I voted for whatever sounded the most fun or the most engaging, or if there was a silly bit going on in the Patreon Discord, I would vote for that too. It was fun, and that's not a bad thing. I wasn't really thinking about how things would affect John or Arthur. I'm not too sure when my mindset shifted. It was probably one of the first couple votes of season 6, because I stopped seeing myself in Arthur's place and stopped thinking about how Ajaqs, would handle the situation, and started thinking about how Arthur and John would if I were role-playing these characters. How would they act with the information they had, with their experiences that they had? At that point, I felt more engaged, more invested, and more a part of the story. I mean, if Ajaqs had gotten stuck in the dark world, she would have gotten eaten by rats or whatever that creature at the fake farm was. What was that creature? I don't know. All that to say, being a voter in Malevolent really echoes the sentiment that Invictus Stream brings to everything they do. It's to invite people around the table and be part of the story. So excited to see you all at the finale. Bye!
Ajaqs, you're such a real one. I was thinking about this and I keep forgetting to bring it to Autopsy, but you grabbed it and dragged it out of the depths of my brain. I was just realizing not that long ago, the sign-off for Invictus stuff is see you around the table.
Yeah.
And it truly feels like we have been around the table for this thing. And that's so exciting and cool.
It's a really big table.
Yes, it's a very large table.
They have to keep it in a different room from the Jouch. Spooky Stream reference.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. Gotta rent out a few banquet halls for the table. But like, I loved that. It gave me goosebumps when I realized it. Like, it's not just a silly little sign off. We are around, we're part of it. We're around the table. And that was even the case back when they were doing the Call of Cthulhu streams on Google Hangouts years and years ago, because they would have the community solve puzzles and interact with the story. And so they really always have brought their audience to the table. Even today, spooky streams, they actually interact with their chat, which a lot of streamers really struggle with or fail to do at a certain size. And it's difficult for them, but they've never stopped trying to do it. And they always invite people to participate.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge thing right now in a world that desperately needs more community and involvement, especially with people who are not like you.
Right.
And man, I think That is so beautiful. So thank you for bringing that up, because man, you right, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah, Ajaqs sent me 2 messages, and maybe I was only supposed to pick one, but I thought they were both really good, so I included both of them.
Okay, I have a new artist challenge. If you draw, or like you get crafty, or you just want to talk about it. What's your table setup? If we're all sitting around a D&D table together, or a Call of Cthulhu table, or whatever, like everyone has their fancy little like coaster, or a dice tower, or, or a spreadsheet, or like a journal.
What does your seat at the table
look like? Yeah. What's your chair look like? What cozy accoutrement are you bringing? What's your like pencil look like? I don't know. Are you an all digital gamer? I personally, I love like the accessories to make it feel authentic, but I hate my handwriting, so all my shit is on an iPad, which I know is like taboo. But I do love like the cool little coasters, and I have real dice sets. I only roll real dice. I don't roll digital dice. No. But like I want to know what everybody's cool little table setup is.
I've got a hybrid setup, and like to the extent that I keep a digital version of my character sheet and a physical version of my character sheet, and I update both of them. I don't know why, but I'm also the note taker, and I am not taking notes by hand.
Of course you're the note taker. Do you want to know something great?
Yeah.
I have never been able to take notes at D&D. I can barely keep track of how much gold I have or what items I have. We have one person who takes notes.
How many years have you been playing?
I've been playing for at least 8 years now.
Oh my god.
I've never taken a note.
It couldn't be me, because I'm a control freak and I don't trust other people to take the right kind of notes. I'm sorry.
This is why I don't bother, because I won't. That's fair. All the people who are really anal about their notes can take their own notes, and then they do the session recap and we're fine. See, everybody benefits. We're cool. I'll remember everything about what happened to my character.
Obviously. Of course you will.
Duh. Of course.
Hello, Malevolent Autopsy. It's Slate, they, them, and I'm phoning in for 2 reasons. The first is to thank you, Queen and Vol, for the existence of Autopsy. You're creating a historical artifact, and I love that we as patrons get to be the voices in Arthur's head and the voices in your podcast. Thank you for preserving this and us. Second, I want to thank Malevolent for allowing everyone to invent brand new ways of being colossally wrong. Malevolent polls are an exercise in learning to be wrong publicly, and being able to own up to your mistakes is a tough skill that gets polished every week. So I'd like to thank Malevolent on all of y'all's behalf, since I myself have never actually been in that position. People don't say this much about Malevolent. I might actually be the first person, I'm probably the first person to say this. Malevolent has done the world a huge service, teaching the masses critical thinking and humility. Thanks, Malevolent.
Thank you, Slate. And yeah, I am so honored to help carry the little vessel with all your voices and thoughts in them to the public forever, or as long as digital media exists. I love that this is something where people are like, oh, I can contribute to this and it'll be remembered, because that's so important. And I think that you are definitely the first person to say that Malevolent has changed the world.
Yes.
Let's make it even grander.
You are so brave. You are
so brave. You're so bold. And it is truly so sweet that you all submit as much as you do, and that you trust me to authentically portray your voices and to respond kindly and to support the discourse that you bring, because I think that it can feel very easy to not want to take that risk, but I feel honored that you have trusted me with that, and I hope that you will all continue to do so. But Slate, you are such a gift and a treasure. Thank you so much for everything you bring to the community. You are a fucking gentleman and a scholar.
It made me laugh so much that they wanted to thank Malevolent for teaching people how to be publicly colossally wrong. And I know that is something that Queen has no experience with. Queen is never wrong.
Just this morning, Vol woke up and was like, I saw that there was this thread full of bingo cards. Did you ever make a bingo card after Da Capo? And I was like, no, I don't make bingo cards. That's way too permanently publicly wrong. Are you kidding me? Physical evidence that I predicted something and was wrong about it? Absolutely fucking not. As it is, autopsy is enough. I am just like, well, I said that out loud. There's no written transcript anyone can screenshot and send around to show how wrong I was.
Because that's what
so
people
that's
do.
okay. I can
That's what people do when
Yeah.
you're wrong. They talk about it. They pass it around to their friends. It's in all of the group
Listen,
chats, you know?
I've seen how hard people go when people get canceled online. I'm so scared of being canceled. Every day I wake up thinking there's going to be a ping about how terrible Queen is secretly for something I did not say or do. So, like, absolutely not. I've never made a serious bingo card. I've made bingo cards where every square was Charlied out.
Yes.
And those are pretty serious. But, like, I've always struggled with being publicly wrong. It's embarrassing. It's difficult. It's frustrating. It's so many things.
But you've had to face that a few times during your time with Malevolent and with Autopsy, and I'm proud of you for it.
Thank you. Very sweet of you. I really credit a lot of my growth in being wrong loudly and publicly to Malevolent, and being wrong specifically about, like, fun, normal things to be wrong about, not like climate change.
Yeah.
I just want to disclaimer for anyone trying to cancel me in the future. I'm not saying that it's okay to be wrong about climate change.
Facts.
I'm saying, or
Yes.
like, yeah, I'm talking about like fun, silly podcast stuff that doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm gonna play this submission.
Hi everyone, it's Oro, they them. I just wanted to send a really quick voice message to thank everyone that has been involved in the making of Autopsy. The people who sent email and voice messages, the editors and co-hosts, Vol, Queen. This show is truly a labor of love from the community for the community. It warms my heart every week, and even more, it's the reason I'm here, personally. Autopsy was what made me decide to subscribe to the Patreon. It showed me how crazy, interesting, intense, and fun the voting experience could be. And after almost 5 months of voting, I can confidently say that the real thing doesn't disappoint. Being in the poll minds is always the highlight of my weeks and manages to make me smile even on the worst days. So, thank you everyone. This has been a blast. I'm so glad to be here with all of you wonderful people for this finale and for the new beginning that is just around the corner.
Thank you, Oro. I'm not sure if you've said it before. You probably have. I think it may just be hitting me extra hard because it's the finale. I did not know that Autopsy was why you subscribed to the Patreon. My jaw fell open to realize that, I guess, in earnest right now, because that is the highest honor, I think. Don't even know how to put that together in my brain. That's amazing. I'm so happy. That's exactly what I hoped it would do for people, to realize there's cool stuff happening over here. You should come over here.
You should come join us.
Yeah, and like I try not to be super pushy about that. I mean, as much as I can be, this being a very patron heavy thing, because I know that finances are not always in line with people to join, and that it can be difficult to feel that, you know, a community is kind of held back from you because of a financial circumstance.
Sure.
But that's also part of what I wanted Autopsy to bridge the gap for. There are so many people who would love to be here and just can't do it financially, and I wanted to give them a way to kind of experience the community until hopefully maybe there's a time where they will be able to join. Maybe they'll be able to listen to this and follow along and get to know some of these people, so that when they come into the server, in that section, if they, you know, are able to become a patron, they can kind of feel like they have some roots, and they sort of know how things are going and what's happening, and they won't feel so isolated or new in a scary way,
right?
Because it can be overwhelming to jump into the giant Discord with full of people who already know each other. It's a very difficult experience to go anywhere new where people already know each other, but Invictus Discord is different. I know that sounds so hokey, but it truly is. We are so embracing of others, and we pull people in even if we have no idea who they are. So like the fact that this is the thing that brought you over here is so meaningful to me. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. You have become a staple on the show as well. You are a voice I look forward to hearing all of the time now. I always know your messages are going to be beautiful and probably make me tear up. And I do really, really value all of the voices here, but I especially value the ones like you where you're a little bit newer and you finally got to come hang out with us. And yeah, just thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah. I feel like Autopsy, it always felt like a time capsule, like I'm always saying, but it also felt like a chance, like you were saying, to share what the voting experiences was like. But I honestly, I didn't even think about the fact that people might listen to Autopsy and then decide that they wanted to be part of the voting experience because of that. And so that's really cool. And I wanted to save this one for last because it was really near and dear to our hearts. And everyone who has sent in such kind words about Autopsy itself, it blows me away that we have so many people who come regularly, who submit regularly, and that we're all on this big fun ride together. It's so cool.
It's amazing. It's incredible. The fact that we have double digits showing up for every show, and it just it feels like I see a new name that I've never seen before all the time.
Yeah.
And originally, Autopsy started as archival work that was kind of fun because I knew that something special was happening and nobody else was doing it. It had to get done. It almost felt like homework. Like there's no way we can't go on not doing this any longer.
Right,
we have
right.
got to start doing this. And
we
so
have a duty. We have a duty to do this.
I started doing it, and at the first it was like, oh, this is just for record keeping. This is just like something that needs to be done, and eventually somebody else will take it over because it's an archive and it needs to be maintained. But over time, it has really become far more of a connecting piece. Like I have hopes for this show to be something that bridges the gap between patrons and public, that shares experiences from important moments in Malevolent history, but also is a great way to learn about not just the vote or why things happened, but also like the community structure and who people were and where our heads were at with each other, and not just the vote. Because like messages like these that just talk about Autopsy or your experience with getting into the show, that's still stuff that people can benefit from in the future. And I think it is also such a testament to the bravery and the excitement and courage that people can still feel in really trying times. We are in 2026 and it's a lot.
It's rough out here.
And we're doing things still, though.
Yeah.
Like, people are still laughing and submitting and being kind to each other.
Yeah, and creating. And the chat are saying some really lovely things. Ajaqs says, Queen saw there was a missing piece, but ended up building a new puzzle. And Misraa says, Autopsy's become entirely its own. Oh.
Shut up.
You guys are so sweet.
Thank you guys so much. You're all very, very sweet, very kind. And I hope that this proves to you, if you find something else that you really like a comic book or whatever normal people are into, you go and do something about it. Like, go and make a thing about it, because I'm not doing anything any of you couldn't do. Seriously, like, this is the thing. This is, just get a mic. Don't even have to be a nice mic. Just get a mic and start talking about it with a friend, and that you will create a thing.
Go make a podcast. Everybody, go make a podcast.
Go make a podcast. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a ride of all. I'm not going to hear your voice again until we've finished Malevolent Season 6, Series 1.
Oh my god, that's so weird. We're
gonna be different people.
I was just gonna say the same thing, and apparently we're gonna be the same person.
Val and I have started saying the exact same sentences on Autopsy and in our DMs even so frequently. Then I'm like, I don't know that we even need both of us to do the podcast anymore. I think we can get away with just one or the other each week, because we're starting to just say exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no.
Truly, I think we'll all be changed as people the next time we gather for Autopsy, and I am deeply looking forward to seeing who we are after that and hearing all your thoughts.
We are all going to be very, very normal on the next autopsy.
We are. We're going to be super normal. And the people that are with us are going to be incredible and incredibly normal. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again. I love you all so much. We're going to go, I guess, for the public right now, we're going to go listen to the finale. And we'll see you in a few minutes if you're binging Autopsy, which, oh my God, if you're binging Autopsy, please personally email me, malevolentautopsy@gmail.com, if you have binged Autopsy, because I can't imagine doing that. I don't think anyone's ever going to binge Autopsy. That sounds crazy. I will see you all on the other side, around the table even, one could say.
One could say.
One could say. One could say. I guess I sign off like normal.
Yeah.
Man, this
Come
is
on.
wild.
You've got to. It's the last autopsy before the finale. We got at least this one more send-off.
Remember, in the end, it's never about certainty. It's about making a choice and moving forward. Until next time, the horrors persist.
But so do we.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Misraa, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent.